And welcome to the first webinar for Team in Training created by founder and CEO of Total Immersion, Terry Laughlin. My name is Steve Heller, and I have been with a Team in Training coach since 2009. In 2008, I was unable to swim even one lap. I heard about Total Immersion, and I attended the workshop to learn how to swim. I had a great experience, and I was able to compete in several triathlons that year, thanks to Total Immersion. Since then, I have coached and competed in numerous triathlons, including an Ironman. This past summer, I had the honor and pleasure of becoming a certified Total Immersion swim coach. This is where I first saw Terry Laughlin in action. His passion, dedication, and knowledge is unmatched by any other person out there, or any program for that matter. From his vast experience, he is able to break down swimming into small parts, and all who are touched by him or his students drastically improve their skill. It is my honor to introduce the world-renowned and first name in swim instruction, Total Immersion's CEO, Terry Laughlin.
Thank you, Steve, and I am really delighted to have you as a colleague, and to all Team in Training members. What you do is enriching not just your lives, but the lives of many people who benefit from your participation in Team in Training. And because of that, I'm delighted to be able to support Team in Training with this webinar, and hopefully with more forms of TI support for Team in Training coming forward. So with that, let's go to the webinar, and I have to make sure I'm... Steve, do you see the slides? I just want to make sure.
I just see you right now.
Just me, okay. Hang on, let me...
You look good, though.
All right, I got to bring up the slides. Screen share. Share. Now do you see the slides?
I do. I see the first one.
Okay, great. That's where we want to be. So, what we're talking about this evening is how you can have your best triathlon season ever, and by changing the way you approach triathlon swimming. So the question I think we could start with the question: do you want to have a faster swim or a slower swim? And I think the answer would unanimously be that everyone would like to swim faster, and that's a very healthy goal. And the question is, how do you approach it? And we'll talk about that tonight. So then the second question is, what if the choice was between a faster swim or a faster triathlon? In other words, if you could get a faster triathlon without swimming faster, I'm confident that you would choose that. So let's talk about the role in which swimming faster may or may not play in having a faster triathlon. So the secret formula, it's not so secret, but very few people talk about it, and I don't think a whole lot of people are aware of taking a strategic approach to triathlon. But the one we teach is that your goal should be to swim your desired pace or your optimal pace as easily as possible to save energy so you can work harder, longer in cycling and running. And why does that work? And the reason that works is because you're doing 3 sports or 3 disciplines in one, and in so doing, it brings you into what I call the oxygen conversion conundrum, and this is all about the way in which in each of the 3 disciplines you convert oxygen or energy. Oxygen is just another term for energy cost. You convert oxygen or energy into speed. So let's assume a swimming speed of 2 miles per hour, a running speed of 8 miles per hour, and a cycling speed of 20 miles per hour. And they should all, athletes of equal ability, should all have approximately the same energy cost or oxygen cost. But when you try to go faster, then things really change. So to go 5% faster, it only costs you 5% more oxygen. In other words, you only have to work a little bit harder to run a little bit faster. To cycle a little bit faster, 5% faster, it's going to cost you a little more oxygen, 10 to 12%. But to swim a little bit faster, you have to work a lot harder because you're going to consume about 30% to 40% more oxygen to swim 5% faster. So working the math in terms of conversion into actual speed, 1 unit of oxygen will convert to swimming 1/10 of a mile per faster, running 3 miles per hour faster, and cycling 6 miles per hour faster. And an average athlete versus an elite athlete, going at the same speed, we're talking about the elite athlete, the average athlete will burn 15% more oxygen than the elite in cycling, will burn 20% more oxygen than the elite in running, and will burn 300% more oxygen than the elite in swimming. So the takeaways are, you can't win a triathlon during the swim. You can very easily lose it. In other words, lose the opportunity to have your best triathlon, and that it makes the most sense to save energy and save oxygen, to invest that effort on land and save it in the water. So your race strategy for swimming should be to swim very easily, swim at a really controlled heart rate or rate of perceived exertion, if you're familiar with that term. Control the tendency to race or chase other people during the swim. Keep your cool. Swim your own pace. Know your pace and swim your pace. What's the cost? What's the potential liability if you swim a little bit too easily? Well, you lose very little in terms of your position in the water. You have the potential to gain a lot on land because you're much fresher. If you swim only a little bit too hard, and with the amount of oxygen that you're going to consume, you will gain very little in the water, but you have the potential to lose a lot on land. So your training strategy for swimming should be to find the easiest possible way to swim the pace you are swimming now. When you swim your current pace much more easily, it's almost automatic that you're going to go faster. So become kind of obsessive about saving energy, and invite speed, don't chase it. Train to hardwire your desired race experience. In other words, what does that mean, to train to hardwire your desired race experience? Think about how it will feel if you have the race of your life, the best triathlon you can imagine having, and think about how you will feel during the swim. Think about how you will feel as you come out of the swim, and how fresh and strong you want to feel as you go into transition 1. And training should really be about imprinting and encoding the feelings that you want to have during the race of your life, rather than working hard until your tongue is hanging out. If you don't want to feel that way during the race, then you shouldn't be training that way, because you're training for the way you want to race. Training strategy for cycle and run is train to work harder, longer, train to sustain greater efforts for longer durations. And in that framework, the training for cycle and run, it has to be physically demanding. And so the swimming, approached in the way we're talking about it this evening, it makes a great contribution. So you'll use your swimming for 2 things when you approach it with this kind of strategy. One is you use your swimming to become more efficient, to improve your swimming, so that you really want to think about training in such a way that at the end of every practice, you are actually a better swimmer than you were at the beginning. That's one part, but because you're training for ease, you're going to be making your swimming into a part of your overall training program that really boosts recovery for the more demanding running and cycling workouts you want to do. If you're training hard in swimming, then you won't be very well recovered and you won't have the ability to train harder, longer in the bike and the run. I'm going to bypass that. So how can you swim faster, easier? The way to do that is to really focus on minimizing resistance, minimizing drag, rather than working on increasing power, and work on making every stroke as effective as you can, or in the phrase of one of our enthusiasts, Hadar Avaram, who's a law professor in San Francisco, I never take a stroke in vain. Every stroke has a purpose, and that purpose is to improve. So, looking at the idea of shaping your vessel to reduce drag, this is an example of something that is engineered to reduce drag. A bullet train. It has a tapered leading end, and a smooth shaft, and the purpose, the contribution of the tapered leading end is to separate air molecules smoothly, so that shaft goes through with a minimum of turbulence. And then we move to something that evolved to reduce drag, a pike, which is shaped similarly to a barracuda, the super streamline, and you see the same shape as the bullet train, the tapered leading end and the smoothly shaped body that fits through. So the fish's nose cuts a sleeve in the water. It cuts a sleeve of reduced resistance in the water through which the fish's body can move with a minimum of resistance. Now, the human body is not shaped like a fish's, but this is an example of drag reduction that you learn, shaping your vessel and recognizing that when you shape your vessel the way that picture shows, my daughter Fiona, a Total Immersion coach, that your leading hand goes in the water. Its role is to lengthen your body and separate molecules. That's a far more important role than the role of the hand pushing water back. Now, in this picture, her left hand has completed pushing water back, and the right hand is extended forward, reducing drag. She should try to hold that position through the recovery. And then as the hand goes in the water, the focus is on using the hand to lengthen the body and separate molecules. So rethink your freestyle instead of the way most people think about it, which is upper body pulls, lower body kicks. Rethink your freestyle into bisecting your body down the middle instead of at the waist, to streamline right, as Fiona showed in that picture, and then streamline left. And here's a series of pictures of me and famed TI Japan head coach Shinji Takeuchi on the right. In this picture, this was taken in Eleuthera in the Bahamas from a bridge as we were swimming up a channel. And Shinji and I do not practice together, but we practice separately, thousands of miles apart. And what you'll see here in these three pictures is that because we practice the same things and the same skills, we are mirror images of each other. So in this picture, the left side of the body is streamlining, and the right side is setting up to take over the job of streamlining. Our right hands will enter the water and drive into the position you see there. So now we are streamlining with the right hand on the next stroke, and the left arms are set up. And actually the way you see us recovering there, there's something very particular. There's nothing accidental about the way we are recovering. I don't have time to go into it in detail tonight, but for us to hold that long, sleek, stable shape on the right side of the body, while a body part is moving through the air on the other side, we have to recover with great care and great awareness, and that's what it looks like. And then when the left hand goes in the water, there we are again. So streamline right, streamline left, streamline right, streamline left, and that's the picture. That's what it looks like. So reducing wave drag, the thinking process that you follow is job one for your arms is to lengthen your body line and separate the molecules in front of you. Pushing on the molecules behind you is distinctly secondary. Job one for your legs is to draft behind the upper body. One thing to understand about the human leg and kicking is that human legs are exceptionally good at burning energy. They are exceptionally good at creating drag. They're almost pathetic at creating propulsion. You cannot go wrong by kicking less. It's the first step toward having actively streamlined legs. And then finally, with your whole stroke, be focused on minimizing waves, minimizing noise, minimizing bubbles, minimizing splash. These are all things you can think about and be aware of during your training, and certainly when you're in a triathlon swim. If you're doing a descending set, often in your training you may do an easier swim and a faster swim. You may do a descending swim. Especially when you try to go faster, try to minimize any change to waves, noise, bubbles, and splash. Never be noisy and splashy in just trying to go faster. All right, so the next point to make is that you want to make every stroke count, and you do that by swimming in your green zone. What is your green zone? It's the right stroke count for your height, for any height. And this is a chart showing stroke count ranges in a 25-yard pool. So looking at the bottom of the chart there, I'm 6 feet or 72 inches tall. So the lowest stroke count that I should generally have is going to be about 14 strokes. I sometimes take 13, but I'm a pretty efficient swimmer. And I should really never exceed 18 strokes as a 6-footer. And there's a right stroke count, a right range of stroke count. What happens if I go below 14 strokes? Generally, there's a pretty good chance that I might do that by introducing pauses or dead spots in my stroke and letting my momentum drop off. It's going to take me more energy to regenerate that momentum in the next stroke. So I don't want to take too few strokes. What happens if I take too many strokes? My energy is going into moving the water around more than it's going into moving me forward. So in that range of stroke count shown in this green zone, and we're going to send each of you something that shows your green zone stroke count. Then you'll know what to do. The last piece of advice I want to give you this evening, and then I'll take questions. The last piece of advice I have for you this evening is generally avoid long swims in your training. I swim marathons quite often. The last long swim I did was October 19th. I swam from the island of Corsica to the island of Sardinia in the Mediterranean, Corsica being a French island, Sardinia being an Italian island. I swam with two friends. It was 15.5 kilometers, just short, 500 meters short of 10 miles. It took us 4 hours and 31 minutes, including 7 rest stops, each of which probably lasted about, not rest stops, but excuse me, fueling stops, each of which probably lasted about 2 minutes. So our swim time for that 10 miles was about 4 hours and 15 minutes. It's a pretty brisk pace, but we were swimming pretty relaxed the whole time. I only really increased my pace in the last kilometer, was swimming pretty relaxed on the whole. The key point is, in all the pool training I did for 3 to 4 months leading up to that, I did virtually no repeat, no swim longer than 200 meters in a main set. I might do a 400 in my tune-up, but if I did that, I was counting strokes, swimming with a really perfect stroke, trying to hold in a 50-meter pool, trying to hold between 36 and 38 strokes per length consistently, being very relaxed. But the pace type training I did, I would say 90% of my swimming was at distances of 200 meters or less. I don't recall swimming longer than 400 meters continuously at any time in the pool this summer. I saved my longer swims for the open water. Now, why am I suggesting you not do long swims in the pool? Because when I see most triathletes do long swims, two things are happening. They're swimming very slowly, and their technique is deteriorating. Their stroke count is increasing, or in other words, their stroke length is getting worse. Their technique is deteriorating. Their efficiency is deteriorating when they do longer swims, and they're basically kind of essentially plodding through these long swims with not their best technique. And so you have to realize that every lap you do in training is imprinting or encoding the way you will swim in the race. And I do a lot of racing. I love open water racing, and I do it reasonably well. I've won a number of national championships, and I've set a couple of national age group records in open water swimming. And I do longer swims in open water, although again, I swim on a 400-meter course at Lake Minnewaska, and most of my swims there are 400 meters, 400 meters, or sometimes shorter. So I don't do a whole lot of long swimming in open water. It has never handicapped me in getting into a marathon swim. I've swum around Manhattan. I did the Manhattan Island Marathon swim in 2002, and again in 2006. I trained essentially the same way. Most of my training was 200 yards or meters or less. I did very little of any swims longer than that, and it did not handicap me in any way in being able to do a longer swim once I did it in the race. So with that, I am now happy to take any questions that you may have.
Stop your screen share.
Okay.
Okay. Hey guys, I see there's some viewers on here. If anyone has questions, there should be a Q&A little button in the top right-hand screen of your.
Okay, so I
one
see.
question. All right.
14 to 16 strokes per length. Well, let's talk about that. When employing a flip turn, well, yes, I do nothing but flip turns. Actually, I've been doing them for almost 50 years. If I was doing an open turn, I would expect to take one less stroke. Strokes per length with a simple start. Well, that's a good question. What is a simple start? I definitely try to get the best push-off I can. I work on having the best turn and the best push-off I can. I streamline. I'm underwater. A lot of people don't really understand how to use the push-off. So the stroke counts that I cited for myself are with a push-off where I'm generally surfacing at about the flags, the backstroke flags. In other words, 5 yards to 5 meters from the wall is approximately where my head is surfacing. So I'm starting my stroke maybe a little bit before that. I'm starting my first stroke a little bit before that, but my push-off is very streamlined. I do very little kicking on my push-off. I try to go as far as I can in balance. I want to break out moving forward, not sort of floating to the surface. I want to break out moving forward at good speed. One reason I emphasize the push-off, even though I race in open water, I do race in the pool, but not as much as I race in open water, is that with a good push-off, I start my stroke in much better position. I'm in a much more balanced, much more stable position when I start swimming. Any other questions? All right. So Mike Bailey asked 2 questions, one about employing a flip turn and one with a simple start. So does anyone else have any questions? No questions? All right, so we will collect email information. Oh, wait. Hope to see you in New Zealand someday. I hope to see you in New Zealand as well. That's for Mike Bailey as well. 2017, I'm thinking of swimming Rottnest Channel in February 2017. And if I am in Australia, I certainly will come to New Zealand. So we'll get contact information for those of you who attended, and we're going to send you a free ebook, which summarizes in far more detail what I talked about tonight. And thank you very much for joining us on tonight's webinar. Have a great season. Happy laps.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.